I really don't like it for sure,
It's like,
but
for people that are
there's
watching
not.
him to see his face, he's like, "Wait, what do you mean that I like?"
There's not a lot, but my coach start always with like these 30s, 40s, 20s. But from one week to another, he went for 40s, 20s to 2 minutes, 1 minute, and
Oof.
I was like, this gap. He puts like from 40s, 20s at 4:40, 4:50, and the 2 minutes were also around 4:30, 4:50, 4:40. And I was like, you want me to you want to kill me or what? Like, that's crazy. It was more than double the amount, but I managed to do it, and it was also here in Belgium on the turbo, so it was horrible. But I managed to do it. But yeah, he texts me after like, yeah, it's not no time to joke anymore. Like now we go really for hard stuff. But yeah, that's really one of the hardest VO2 we do. I think he never go over 2 minutes in duration.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? We're throwing a little curveball at you today with Duathlete. I know, right? We've heard so many people talking about running on the podcast that I was talking to Arnaud Dely on Instagram. I said, hey, would you ever come on the podcast and talk a little bit about running and cycling and the blending of the two in your sport? He's the current European champion, and he offered to come on. He's a young guy, just crushing, doing a ton of training. There's definitely something to take, even if you're just cycling, talking about his VO2 max intervals, his tempo sessions. If you want to get into running, if you want to hear about his strength training, just kind of his world of training and racing, I think is really interesting. And he talks about triathlon a little bit here and there. So, Arnaud, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Everybody, good luck with your training and racing. If you start running, let me know how it goes. I'm getting into this world, trying to do a few other things besides riding after just many years of just riding. So we might have some more duathletes on. Good luck, everybody. Talk to you later. Yeah, you're the first non full on cyclist coming on. So I'm really excited for this as someone with a
That's
little bit
crazy.
wider range of endurance knowledge.
That's nice. That's nice because in the beginning I was thinking that maybe you do the mistake because a lot of people do with the cyclists, often. But yeah, that's nice. When you were talking about running, then I was okay. Down is talking about duathlon and stuff. So
Yeah.
often happens often.
Well, it's a funny timing because a lot of people have said to me that are running more as cyclists, full time cyclists as their sport. They said, hey, well, I've been listening to the podcast and so many people keep talking about running and now running not only in the off season, but running in season a little bit. And I think Will Barta was the one who flat out said, hey, I just feel so much better running when it gives me
Yeah,
some spring. And so, for people watching on YouTube, they're going to see you've got the treadmill in the background. That's maybe
yeah.
more full on duathlete.
We have
But
both, there, and I think the trainer is just there. So in Belgium, you are quite obligated to have this kind of setup because in the winter here, like, it's kind of yeah, hard to do to train.
I hear you. Yeah, for sure. That's well, let's do a quick intro first. So is your
Great.
last name Dely?
Dirty, yeah,
Dely.
dirty, yeah.
All right, Arnaud Dely. Please introduce
Great.
yourself. Who are you? What's your sport? Some people might not even know what this is exactly. There's going to be a couple people, and then we'll jump into the training and racing questions. So yeah, thanks for being here, Arnaud. Please introduce yourself.
First of all, thanks to you. It's an honor also to be on the podcast because I'm, as I said, watch a lot of your YouTube video and podcast, and now learning also of you. So yeah, I'm Arnaud Dely, as we said, and not to make the mistake with the other cyclists, but yeah, I'm duathlete, so I'm running and cycling, mixing a bit of both together. A lot of people think that's the brother of the triathlon, or triathlon for bad swimmers, stuff like that. Actually, I started with triathlon, but yeah, and I'm Arnaud Dely, so 28 years old right now. I'm now living the dream of being a pro athlete. So like with the Adepts, is the main sponsor of me. Since now 3 years, I'm with the Adepts. So yeah, I'm living the great life of cycling and running for my life. So yeah, now I'm a European champion since last year. Actually, right now, did quite a lot of good places. was quite often into the podium, around podium for world championships, the European championship. But yeah, basically that's one of my biggest achievement right now. Yeah. Other than that, I win quite a couple of races, but in U23 juniors and stuff like that, also I won the world championship and European championship. But yeah, also a lot of people know me also from the running because I'm also yeah, decent runner. My personal best is I just did it yesterday actually. The last I went for 4 seconds my PB, so I did 28:18 for 10k here in Lille, so it's close to my house, home, around 2 hours. So yeah, basically that's a bit all about me right now.
That's fantastic intro. I'm glad you dropped some of those Palmares because looking through your results, it's pretty incredible what you've been able to achieve in the sport of duathlon. And, you know, duathletes are more common in Europe. It's such a bigger sport here, it seems, in the US. And I had talked to a few friends here that are more in the triathlete world, and they said, man, duathlons are mega over in Europe. So I think people here might be like, oh, people are still doing that because they get kind of canceled here. I don't know why. Do you, what is the, like, is duathlon as popular as triathlon in Europe, or would you say is it still triathlon a little bit more? Or I've always because the no swimming seems way more convenient to me.
For a
Harder
lot
to
of
train.
triathletes too.
Yeah.
For
So
yeah.
is it as big over there, or is triathlon still a little bit bigger?
No, for sure. Actually, yeah, triathlon is still bigger. But I mean, if I have to say in three countries like France, Spain, and also Belgium, you are kind of the three main big duathletes country.
Hmm.
Yeah, the field is super high. Like in France, that's also why we have quite a lot of races there. The Grand Prix in France, that's where there's the highest field. You have a lot of Spain athletes, French, German athletes. Yeah, but yeah, I think these three countries are quite the highest level in duathlon, but yeah, it's still quite a bit less popular for sure than triathlon. Here, also in Belgium, is quite stay triathlon the biggest sport in between the two. But yeah, the level is also getting bigger each year, both in triathlon, and then I think it gets also to the duathlon because a lot of triathletes are also doing a bit of duathlon sometimes in the winter or stuff like that. So yeah, the level is getting so high that now quite a lot of people also are specialized, in duathlon.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's great for both of the sport, triathlon and duathlon, I guess.
And then real quickly before to add some context to the training that we're going to talk about, what's a normal duathlon in terms of distance? I think a lot of people that and maybe I'll just speak for myself. I know, hey, there's a sprint try, there's an Olympic try, there's Ironman. Real quickly, what are the duathlon distances and like how long are these taking normally?
Yeah, it's a bit like the same that triathlon. Like you can have quite a lot of different style of races, formats. Actually, what I'm doing right now and what is tend to be more for World Triathlon, so the main organization, is getting a bit more shorter and shorter races for more explosive, and also for spectators to have a bit more of a, yeah, kind of high, super nice. Explosive races. But right now, I would mean normally it's around always 5k first run, 20k on the bike, then 2.5k. That's the sprint. Before, like 3 or 4 years ago, we were doing a bit more the Olympic, even if it's not a Olympic sport, but the standard distance is like 10k, 40k, and 5k. But nowadays we are really going a bit more on shorter races. I really think it's because of the spectators, and we can see also it now from the triathlon with the Super Three or stuff like that. They are super fast races and super short. So yeah, I think it's a bit more for the spectators and just yeah, it's a bit more, and I also can understand a bit more. Yeah, nice to watch and super, yeah, fast.
How do you feel like that will change your training? Maybe break that down from, and maybe it won't. As not being a runner, I don't mentally know the difference as much of like a 5K finish versus a 2.5K sprint. But do you see you having to shift anything on the bike or in the shoes, we'll say, to
Hmm.
address the shorter racing now?
Yeah, actually, the 5:22.5k, so the sprint distance is, yeah, 20k at the end is quite short on the bike. If
Hmm.
it's just because if we have like a really hard biking race with a lot of hills or stuff like that, there you can maybe do some difference. But actually, that's also what I sometimes don't like, is that some often like super flat course on the bike, and we cannot make that much difference. And to show you an example, like last 2 days, a lot of duathletes tend to also cycling with their running shoes because it's so freaking flat that you can lose way more on just changing shoes in the transition than being on a pack, so that's crazy. That's really something that I try to stop, because for me it's first dangerous because we don't cyclists with normal pedals, so for cornering and stuff like that, it's quite super dangerous, because some use it, some don't. So we don't take the same corners also. And also, come on, we are with on maybe 15, 20K bikes, and we ride with normal pedals and running shoes. Is kind of a bit weird, but yeah, that sometimes tend to go like that, of even if it's shorter races, sometimes it's 1K on a run, 5K on a bike, and 1K on a run, so just changing shoes can maybe lose you 5 or 10 seconds, but on the last 1K, if you lose 10 seconds, you're out of the race,
Mm-hmm.
it's done. But if you the longer distance, then on a 10K, 40K, 5K, there the bike became really something important, where we can do a lot of breakaways, and a bit more tactics, in between some nations. So that's also something that I prefer. But yeah, sometimes, like last year in the European Championship, we still managed to do a breakaway with two other Hollanders. So it was great there. But yeah, actually, it's kind of often same kind of races scenario. But it depends really also of the on the bike course, if it's super hard or if it's just super flat.
So you can draft, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So now when you're saying, so I'm understanding this. So when you're saying like a breakaway on the bike, so does a lot of time this just come down to the running sprint at the end?
I mean, if it's a flat course, like 95% of the time. If it's a sprint duathlon, yeah, because
Yeah.
on the
Okay.
first 5K, in between the guys who go super all out, and I can maybe gain like 20 seconds on a 5K, that can quickly, super quickly on a bike with a big group. And then, yeah, on a 2.5K, like the difference is so minimal that it's often down to the last run. But yeah, as I said, it's also depend on the bike course, like it's also sometimes a bit of pity that they're so flat course. If we make it way more interesting, with some hills or stuff like that, there it can be also harder to for the weaker cyclists, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's also changing. That's also nice in a way, because we have different scenario, different race strategy, and different. It's not always the same who wins or on the podium. So that's also great.
So what's a rough duration of the 5K, 20K, 2.5K? About how long would that take on, say, a fast course?
Yeah, let's say like first 5K, we are around 20K an hour, which is 3 minutes per kilometer. So let's say 15 minutes. It's even faster, like even close to the 14 minutes. Then on the bike, it's around 45K an hour, and then last 2.5K it would take around 7 minutes. So it's quite a short distance and duration. Like at the end with 20, like something like less than 1 hour for sure, like 50,
Yeah.
48 minutes for the sprint. And you can count around double for an Olympic, but that's quite short, and yeah, quite explosive too. And little mistake can cost you also a lot, both on the bike, on the run. And one of the most also important in this kind of races is the transition, as we said. But
Mm-hmm.
if you lose 5 seconds, on the first run in the transition, you can maybe lose the group, and then you're done for the rest of the race. So
Mm.
that's also super little, yeah, most important part of the race, who you have to be super yeah, care about.
So we're gonna see like Hoka or one of these really huge souls putting clips in the forefront, maybe.
Actually, there are a lot of people in the Grand Prix who try to do some, yeah, stuff on their shoes. Like they took the Nike Alpha Fly, and inside they put a magnet, So they are running with a magnet, and then on their pedals they also put a magnet. So a lot of people are trying some different stuff to still running with the running shoes for sure, but also cycling with them. So yeah, for me it's a bit it's not
Yeah.
really this kind of stuff you want to see on a bike race, but yeah, it happens, and yeah, it can uh, give you some nice advantage, before the transition. So.
So how do you structure your training week to address both disciplines, running and cycling? And actually, what's the bias here? Are you a better runner or cyclist?
I'm a better runner, definitely.
Okay.
But it's now 2 years I joined the group of PTC coaching. So it's the group of some super known triathletes like Martin Van Riel, Cassandre Beaugrand, who just won the Olympics on the triathlon. So
Okay.
that's really something who make me also a big jump in my bike fitness, because before I was like with a coach who is kind of really good into athletics, but on the bike it was a bit less into the science, to the training really for biking. So I always have been a quite decent runner. But on the bike sometimes I was struggling, and that's also the stuff in duathlon. If the last run you can be as a good runner as you want, if you're broken from the bike, like, you cannot run your full potential. So that's also one of the biggest stuff that I improve on, is my bike last 2 years with this coach who is Glenn Polonis, who also were before a cyclist. He won in a junior again guys like Philippe Gilbert,
Mm.
the Belgian guy. So
Oh yeah.
it's also so nice to say that. But so he knows quite a lot on biking for sure. And like these 2 years, like I think last year I improved from 15 to 20 watts FTP, and this year again. So in 2 years, I think I improved from something like 30 watts. It's quite a crazy jump when you see that, but yeah, for sure, his training is like a way more structure, and also he also managed to see the difference, because not the difference, but how implementing in between these two is important. Like, you don't do always a hard both on bike and a run, because what you do on a bike can also hurt your run, and also the opposite is so true. So that was the biggest improvement I made, is to find this balance between the two.
So what is that balance? Do you do everything hard on one day, like hard run, hard bike, or do you split it? Or if you split it, then do you have too many hard days during the week? Or what's a good sort of rule of thumb there that you've learned?
Actually, there was still a bit of a talk with my coach, because last year he was sometimes putting me both hard session, bike and run on the same day. That's a bit also the trend in the running area of the double threshold, like with the Norwegian approach and stuff like that. But I really found that it was not that great for me. Like, I really prefer to have one day a hard session, and even the day after. But on 2 days, wow, too much stressful for me. So last year I tried to meet this, but yeah, for as for each relationship, you also always need to talk about. And yeah, for me, this now we split it a bit more. So I often have like intensity on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but which is not super intense. We never go really really hard. Like, actually, even on a bike and a run, I never go over 8 on air, 9 on RPE, on 10 scale. So it's quite always control. But yeah, it's quite split in between. We never have quite hard days of both cycling and running in one day.
So do you train VO2 max often?
On the bike, yes. On the bike, quite often. Also, what is super hard, like on duathlon, as I do right now, is the difference. It's in a physiological approach, because on the run, the goal of the run is like to have as highest, I would say, speaking in cycling terms, but the highest FTP, the higher threshold.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the run, you never have like spikes where you go for 10 seconds all out, and then go in a walk for 30 seconds. So on the run, we'll always go as high as possible and as a high threshold. That's really the goal of running, actually. Where in the bike, in our races, is as a criterion, in USA, it's really sprinting in a corner, then being in the pack, then 20 seconds all out, and then maybe 4 minutes around LT2, something like that. But it's way more difference in the physiological approach. So that's why we do way more VO2 max on the bike, also sprints or stuff like that. We never go too much into the zone 6 or all light 1 minute. Also, maybe because I really don't like it and I'm not good at it, you know. But you already, from what I know a bit from what you already said, you know, you're also thinking about if you have a higher FTP, also you can be more, aerobical system is already way better, and you can also recover faster from these from all these attacks, you know. So yeah, that's really where I need for me to do most of the work is really to raise my 5 second power, you know, like it's the opposite of the Arnaud Dely, the cyclist, you know. I would be a GC guy for sure, but yeah, on these really short bursts is really kind of hard for me. But yeah, on the run also, yeah, I think it came also from this the run, you know, that I'm just a big diesel, I would say. And yeah, on the run, I have a super high threshold that I can keep way super high for long. But I would never be a 800-meter runner or 1500-meter
Mm.
runner because it's a bit too fast for me. Yeah.
So how many run sessions per week do you have, and how many bike sessions do you have?
Um,
Obviously, it
I've
changes, but say like roughly, just so people get a sense of like the split,
yeah,
maybe.
I run like 8 times per week. Like I have 2 days where I doubles. So I run in the morning, in the evening, that 2 days. Then I have 1 day off running, and the rest is running each day. And on the bike, I have like 6 or 7. It depends a bit, but it's kind of it's super high volume. It's around 25, 30 hours a week. Also, that's something I changed with my coach. When I see all the triathletes here that I'm training with, when I go to Girona with the group, like they're all averaging also 25, 30 hours. And so while they are all swimming, like I run, you know. So that's basically the training of a triathlete. Instead that when they are swimming, I'm running
Mm.
maybe a bit less in volume. Like when they are swimming 1 hour 15, 1 hour 20, I'm only running 50 minutes or 1 hour, something like that. But yeah, that's a bit more the training of a triathlete. Instead, my run is swim. And sometimes when I'm feel good, I go swimming with them. But my ego takes a lot there.
What is the splitting the double run? Is that to replicate the event, or is that just to reduce injury to make the run shorter and give a little recovery time?
No, just to add some volume, just
Mm.
putting some volume. I don't think it's anything else than that. Also, I'm really I don't know if you say that in English, but in French we say on touche du bois. Like I hope never to be injured, but I never really have some big injury in the run, so I can really easily have quite a lot of mileage on the run. So yeah, for me it's if my coach gives me 130, 140K, I can do it without too much problem. But like I think it was 2 years ago, the duathlon season was quite short because we have a Europeans and World Championships super early in the season. And I said to myself, okay, maybe try to go for a new personal best on a run later in the season. And there I really changed a bit my training and did way more running. Like I was in a week, my highest was like 200 Ks in a week. And I just did 1 or 2 bike session, you know. But there I really felt that was a bit too high for me. I really felt super fatigued, and it really that's where I really find my limits in terms of running kilometers. You know, it's sometimes
Mm.
good to go and see where is it, because and also to be able to say to yourself, okay, this was too much. Because a lot of people also say me, yeah, why you are not just only running, you know. But I really think that with the implementing of cycling, it really helps for my running also. So I really think I'm way better. Only I would say run 100, 120K per week, but cycling 5, 6, 7 times a week. than running 200 Ks and cycling only one or two, you know.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting lead, and then which this might be a hard question to answer since you're better at running. Well, let me ask this first. Actually, did you start as a runner or a cyclist first in life?
I start as a as a basketball player, so
Okay.
but so I guess maybe it tends a bit more to, I would say, running. But when I stopped basketball around 16 or 17, I directly start with triathlon actually, and there from there on, I really thought that I was kind of good in running and also then in duathlon, because when you are doing triathlon young, you do a bit of also duathlon, aquathlon, which is swimming and running. And I was seeing, yeah, okay, I'm way more better in duathlon and this stuff. But yeah, I think I don't came from running, but I'm just where I was more, I guess, talented for that. But my brother and my father were both cyclists, so I was into cycling before running, because I remember when we go to Liège-Bastogne-Liège, seeing the races and stuff, I was always there to ask for bidons or stuff like that for the pro cyclists. So I was also into the cycling world, but never cyclist myself. That's when I started triathlon, that I train a bit more with cycling. But I just guess I was a bit more talented for running than cyclist.
So this question then might we've got a lot of the sports like weaving in through your history of
Mm.
life, so this may or may not make sense, but can you pinpoint, and maybe from when you were cycling and you're going to LBL and you're watching the races, then you really more like bring in the running consistently, is there any way that you found that running has improved specific aspects of your cycling performance, or is it too like intermeshed that it's hard to break the two apart?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say, but what I'm sure of is like also when we talk about genetics, I always have like long muscles, really tiny muscle. Like if you see my calves, they are inexistent. That's really something that also from term of genetics is way more suited to long aerobical stuff, a bit less explosive. So that's also why I think in cycling, I would be way more a guy like GC, or I think climb from 10, 15 to upper minutes, like I really suit me great. And that's my thing, but it limits me a lot, like when we see on the cycling side, like really this punch and stuff like that, are really yeah, my weaknesses. And I don't think it helps. Yeah, it's hard to say if it helps me the running for cyclists, maybe in a way from injury and stuff like that, and bone density. I know a lot of people of cycling are running for that, to keep the bone density strong and stuff like that. And I really think it can help also for, yeah, for longevity, less injury or stuff like that. So I think it's also why we see a lot of cyclists nowadays. Yeah, Remco, Mathieu, or Van der Poel, Wout van Aert, all these guys. Even Pitcock, I remember like 4 or 5 years ago, like he posted a run, like he was doing a 5K in a super fast time, something like that. So I think, yeah, it can be beneficial, for cycling too, but in a way that you can also recover from it, because I have the example of just my brother, who is also doing a lot of cycling races. Like he went for a jog with me for 10K, and like for 3 days he cannot walk, because it's really not the same muscles.
Totally
Yeah.
different muscles. It's interesting that you bring up Remco. I had an athlete that was at Worlds and said Remco went for a run the morning he won the time trial, and we looked back. It's he said it was on his Strava. It's not there right now, but he's going to look for it. And I was like, that's so interesting that just more and more cyclists are running at the highest level. Um, yeah, very intrigued by that for sure.
Yeah, but I was also just saying from the example of Remco is also not especially coming from running or cycling, but from football, and also
Right.
something, of running. And I remember I was not still doing running or stuff like that at this moment, but I think he did the 20K of Brussels, which is quite of a big race here in Belgium, and he was around, I think, around 16 years old. We run this at a pace of 320 per K, which is 18K an hour. He was like 16 years old. So it
Wow.
clearly showed this guy as, yeah, a crazy aerobic engine. At 16 years old, that's already some athletics guy cannot do that at 16 years old, and him coming from the football, doing that as a training. So it was kind of crazy.
How, this might sound like a silly question as a cyclist, or I'll show that I'm truly a cyclist and have no running experience or very little. When you mention your PB on the 10K, is that the most like traditional distance that you would benchmark yourself at, a 10K, or is that like a duathlete thing, or is that just your own personal gauge, or where does the 10K fall into, like, if you're talking, cyclists talk about FTP, they might talk about their VO2
Yeah.
max, like, are runners talking about their 10K time?
Yeah, definitely. I really think that's something we can really compare it between both. That's also something from duathlon. I know because it's kind of the last, yeah, the first 5K on the duathlon. You never go also super, and don't go all out, because if not, you cannot cycle after. So we often also are running closer to our 10K all out effort. So that's also maybe why it's a benchmark, I do say. But yeah, I think 10K is kind of a good reference for a lot of non-drafting, drafting, sorry, event. But maybe when you go to a bit more long distance for athletes, it's maybe more relevant to speak in maybe half marathon races, or even marathon if you do Ironman. But there is kind of a bit different, because in Ironman you also run after a 180K bike, so it's not especially the same. But yeah, for us two athletes, 10K is kind of a good benchmark of your running capacity, because if we talk about 800-meter reference, or 1500, it's way too fast, and a lot of that's a bit of like, if we talk about track cyclists, what's your 1 minute power, is not maybe that relevant for an event as we do. So I would say, like, yeah, 10K reference and the FTP are quite close for running and cyclists.
Okay, cool. What's for a cyclist that's thinking about this, they maybe listened to the podcast before and they're hearing people talking about running, they're going to think about maybe some duathlons. What are some, or even someone who just wants to improve their overall fitness, what would maybe some recommendations for a cyclist getting started? As you said, was your brother that, ran a 10K, was like, oh my gosh, I'm crushed. How would someone get started in running just for some general health and being able to go out and start running some 10Ks?
But for sure, you have to be, yeah, consistent. But also, sometimes in cycling, you say yourself, yeah, I can go riding for 3, 4, 5 hours easily. Then you go to the run, you say, oh, if I put my shoes, I at least need to go for a 10K, or a 10 mile, or 1 hour. But it's not working like that at all. I would say the best is to be really, really cautious and gradual into your running evolution. I would say the best is to be consistent. It's better to run maybe 3 times a week, 20 minutes, for example, in the beginning, than to run once 1 hour. Because your
Mm-hmm.
body will be more used to this constant load on your muscle and tendons, which are the quite important if you don't want to also to enjoy yourself. But just the consistency of putting your body into this little stress, that's super important. And as I said, like, the ego there is super super hard, because as cyclists want to do always more, put on Strava, super long or fast paces. Also, that's sometimes a problem. Sometimes you also need to go super slow in the beginning, because yeah, for sure you have the heart, the lungs, but the muscle, as we said, can maybe not follow. So that's a bit more difficult. But that will be really my best advice for cyclists coming to running. Really, it's way better to be consistent, and little by little, step by step, than doing too much, in once.
Love that. Are you in the gym or do you not have enough time for that?
For sure, I have to. I hate it, but that's really, I guess, maybe why I also progressed last years. But my coach really put me in the gym 2 times a week. He tries, not when I'm racing or stuff like that, but he really have made me a great program on that. I'm really really bad at it, and also I made some great improvement of it. But a lot of triathletes in the group, when I joined for the first time, were laughing of me, of like, how I lift or stuff like that. But yeah, I see it as a great way of improvement, and that's also great to see your PBs in the bench or in the squat stuff like that, going higher and higher. But I'm still not a super great lifter guy. But no, I really start to enjoy it a bit more.
So you mentioned squat and bench. What else do you like to do in the gym, or that your coach has you doing?
Oh, I don't know all the name. He put me a lot of the squat, also the hip thrust. Actually,
Okay.
the program is super basic. We don't do that much crazy stuff. We also work a lot on the core, on the balance. On the run, we also do a lot of plyometrics. So that's really something we do quite a lot to really, on the run have this. We call it light feet, but it's really to really have a good short contact, ground contact. It's
Mhm.
yeah, kind of super important on the run. But yes, squat, hip thrust, Bulgarian squat we also do.
Mhm.
That's yeah, he changed it quite a lot. He often have a lot of different exercise also. But yeah, I don't remember all the names.
That's all
That's
right.
names that I forget always. But they are quite simple. We have like 15, 20 minutes of mobility, core, stuff like that. And then we have like 20, 30 minutes of two or three main exercise where there we go quite heavy, around 3, 4, 5 reps, quite as high as I can handle, for example. And then we finish with like some foam roller or stuff like that. So
Mm.
normally, if you do it quite quick, you can do it around 45, 50 minutes. But that's also often there we chat a lot, and it finished with 1 hour 30 session. But yeah, that's also a great way to change a bit from cycling and running. So that's nice.
And that's the life of a pro. You get to go to the gym for an hour and a half. It's amazing. People who are working at 9 to 5 are
Yeah,
going to be super envious of that.
exactly.
And for people that heard Arnaud say the Bulgarian split squat, if you listen to Keegan and Landry talk on a strength podcast, we're in the middle of March here, probably in the early March, I've had maybe 3 or 4 athletes that said, "Hey, I listened to that podcast and I tried this split squat, and oh my gosh, just the transfer to the pedals is I can see how that would relate also to running a lot." But it's interesting to hear you mention that one as well. It seems like a really beneficial lift for endurance athletes in general.
Definitely.
Um, what do you find for yourself is the most challenging aspects of being in two sports? So you're strength training, you're running, you're cycling. You're while you're a pro and this is your job. What's the toughest thing in balancing that?
Actually, yeah, I found it's like to know where I am in both of the discipline in terms of fitness, because sometimes you can be really good on a run, but it doesn't mean you are a good athlete. Or the same on the bike. If you're really good in a good great fitness on the bike, sometimes the run is not following. So that's really to find this balance in between the two, and yeah, it's even harder, I guess, in triathlon, but. Is to be quite equal in the three, and to find this yeah, this fitness in the two or the three sport. I really think for me it's that, and also sometimes the stress of transition, because you can lose so much there in between the run and the bike in transition, as I said, like is so short and can give you or lose you so much places that sometimes it's something that you, yeah, for sure you can train for it. Sometimes before the race you will try to go as fast as possible, but it's something you cannot physiologically change. So that's sometimes a bit of a stress for me, but I used to yeah, to believe in the process. That really something that my coach try me to put in my head. Is like races, the result will speak of itself. What is most important is the what you do every day. Also planning everything around training, make sure I recover well, I eat enough, I drink enough, I sleep enough, just basic stuff. But before I was like always in a rush of everything, and planning in advance also allowed me to be more calm and less stressful. And now I'm approaching races really calm and just let's have fun, because actually that's really the most fun part, when you train 30 hours a week. This 1 hour races is really for what you are training for. So I always have fun doing it. So that's why I love.
I love that because I think it's easy for amateurs to forget that the weekend race is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be an
Definitely.
enjoyable process. All this work that goes into it. That's
Mm.
a amazing tip for everybody listening. So let's say you could add something else. What do you wish you could do more in training? You're already training a ton, but if you're like, man, if there were a few extra hours, I wish I could do this.
Actually, not really, because as I said, I also found I would say my limits, but I don't think often more is more. Definitely
Mm,
not. Um, but you can sometimes train smarter, like in a way also in cycling. Don't coast too much in downhill or use too much zone one. That's really something. Keep a bit of pressure on the zone two ride, because for example, if you go for a 3 or 4 hours ride, the difference is between a guy who's staying always in zone two and a guy who are coasting in zone one can be in terms of kilojoules, like from, for example, double sometimes. So in a way you are training double of the amount, for example, for this example. But something I would change definitely is trying to learn swimming a bit younger, because I really think that yeah, swimming is a sport that when you learn it super young, you're a bit more easy into the water and you can feel it a bit more in the water. As I start quite late, yeah, it's a bit harder for me. And I really think if I would have learned that younger, I would have been yeah, a great triathlete, I guess. But that's maybe something I will try again next year, to do a bit more longer triathlon and get back a bit into the triathlon game, and trying to challenge a bit my Martin Van Riel, my colleagues in my even if it will be super hard, but yeah, no, for sure, that's to see these triathletes training next to me each day really give me a lot of motivation. Also for me, that's crazy, the level also from. I know some guys from the group who are, I think, 2004, born in 2004, and like the guy at just crazy level right now. It's the triathlon is getting way more each year. The level is crazy, and that's motivate me to train. Yeah, to keep training and don't to kick their ass instead of theirs doing kicking mine.
on the front of training, let's talk about favorite workouts. What's your favorite on the bike workout, or maybe said differently, that you think moves the needle the most for your performance?
Definitely something around the super tempo stuff. Like for me, also is something I like also, because I'm kind of a engine, super diesel engine. But yeah, this tempo around, yeah, zone three, I would say zone three, in the middle of zone three, I would say something LT1. That's really something. If you can move this LT1 as high as your LT2, as high as possible, really helps you without taking too much days to recover. Because LT2 stuff or FTP is some stuff they are way harder and
Mhm.
takes a bit more to recover. But actually, I don't do that much LT2, but a bit more LT1 and VO2 then. That's really this kind of session that I really like on the bike, and I feel helps me a lot. But that's session. But if I would say the best ever advice, like volume at zone two, for me it's crazy, the difference. Like when I can go in Spain for a training camp of 2 weeks and do like an extra 4 or 5 hours a week of just zone two, like that's crazy. My level after on the both on the bike and on the run, like I really feel in difference that we saw a bit my limits on the run side. There, I really think that putting some volume more on the bike really helps me with my performance without too much having some risk of injury or overtrain. It's way easier to put some hours on the bike than on a run. I really feel it.
How much time at tempo would you try to get on like a big tempo day?
Actually, not that much. I would say something like between 1 hour and 1 hour 30.
Okay.
Yeah, that's and sometimes the highest I did is was like I think 90 minutes continuously at zone three. So I did something like in Girona to like 1 month ago was like something like 90 minutes around zone three. So it was around 320 watts. And then it was 6 times 6 minute uphills. It was torque. So it was a low cadence around zone four, I think. So that was a really hard session, long session, but it's something really helps me. I feel it with my performance.
What about the VO2? What's your favorite style of VO2 max intervals?
Uh, I really don't like it for sure,
It's like
but
for people that are
there's
watching it
not
to see his face, he's like, "Wait, what do you mean that I like?"
there's not a lot. But my coach start always with like these 30s, 30s, 40s, 20s. But from 1 week to another, he went for 40s, 20s to 2 minutes, 1 minute, and
Oof.
I was like this gap. He puts like from 40s, 20s at 440, 450, and the 2 minutes were also around 430, 450, 440. And I was like, you want me to you want to kill me or what? Like, that's crazy. It was more than double the amount, but I managed to do it. And it was also here in Belgium on the turbo. So it was horrible, but I managed to do it. But yeah, he texts me after, like, yeah, it's not no time to joke anymore. Like, now we go really for hard stuff. But yeah, that's really one of the hardest VO2 we do. I think he never go over 2 minutes in duration.
Do you so what was that 2 minute, 1 minute? How many times are you doing them? And like if there's multiple sets, how much rest? We might
Yeah.
make a little Instagram graphic from this one. It sounds pretty brutal.
If I remember correctly, it was 4 times 2, rest one, and that 2 times. So it was 4 times 2 minutes on, 1 minute off. It was around 440, 450 watts. And yeah, also like right now I'm weighing 62, 63. So I don't know how
Okay.
much is it in watt per kilo, but and then I was have something like 5 or 10 minutes easy, and then again 4 times 2 on, one off.
So like
This
16
one,
minutes on total.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Cool. The one thing I was curious about thinking about the treadmill and when you mentioned the turbo, how often are you on the treadmill versus out on the road?
That's always when I have a session like something like tempo or threshold. Again, I go on treadmill. I never go for easy jog or long run on the treadmill. That's really when I want to. It's not especially if it's bad outside. Sometimes I go even if it's good, but just to control my LT2 or LT1, it's way easier. You put the speed you want and just stay there. Control lactate after 2 or 3 intervals. If it's too high or too low, you adjust the pace. But sometimes if you go running in a group on a track or stuff like that, you sometimes tend to go faster that you need to.
Mm.
That's also sometimes why I do it here on my own like that. I put again my ego on the side and just put the speed and just watch Netflix or stuff like that. But I like that. I'm sure that I'm hitting the right target and the right physiological need for the session. But also, I can also now to learn to love it. And that's quite I would not say a trend, but with the guy I was talking before, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, which is a kind of famous runner in Norway. He's also implementing a lot of this treadmill session, where you just do the speed and doing the work. Because sometimes, as I said, again, on the track, you can have wind, you can have. We don't have the power meter, on the runs. There is some powers capture, but they are not for me that much reliable. Sometimes it's a bit give you different watts, so that's not super accurate for me. So here, whatever, you just have a pace, you stick to it, and for me that's the best way to be sure you don't actually you don't think too much about the speed. It's just if it's 18k an hour, 90k an hours, I don't really care. I just want to have the certain lactate, and from that on, from one day to another, it can change the speed. But like that, I'm sure I'm in the good zone.
Is RPE higher on the treadmill versus outside for you?
For a lot, yes. For me, I find it not especially, but maybe also because I'm used to. But also, I really think that it depends of your running mechanics, because I know a lot of guys also running a lot on the treadmill, but still find that it's way harder inside. I think there's a lot of study that demonstrate that it's easier inside, like or sometimes guys recommend to put some incline of 0.5 or 1%. Um, but I think it's for me. I found it easier. But yeah, I really think it depends of the people, and as I said, running mechanics, because yeah, a lot of guys running a lot. If you have a heel striker, you came from the heel, for example, it's way harder maybe for you to run on the treadmill. But yeah, I think it's really individual for that.
That's so interesting. Have you known any cyclists that have gotten into duathlon that you've trained along? And I'm just curious of, I think kind of in theory we would think, oh well, like more of a time trialist would perform well at this sport, but since there are these surges and drafting and kind of like a road race element to it, do you know any, like, what type of cyclist tends to do well at duathlon when they come over? Is it as straightforward as like the time trial, they just hammer it out, or and maybe you don't, but just curious.
I would say also it would suit maybe better some time trialists, because also of the as I said, the running physiology, which are
Yeah.
super like also time trial type. Because if you give a sprinter the first 5k on a run, I really think it will be super hard for him. Like yeah, I have actually a great example, because last or 2 years ago on the Grand Prix we had a French guy who came from UAE, who was before in the team. His name is Alexis Brunel. You maybe heard of him. Who
Mm,
just won also. He came back this year again in the Total Energy team.
okay.
So that's really a super strong guy. He's also super specialist in the TT, so he's super fast guy. But so I think he left UAE around 18 or 19 years old, then started doing a bit more duathlon stuff like that. And he went, as I said, 2 years ago, sometimes racing with us. He was still running super fast. I think he ran running around 15 on a 5k, so it's still around 20k an hour. And then on the first lap on the bike, he was often catching up on us. So that was kind of crazy. But he never won a duathlon, but he was kind of close to do it. But also, he never managed to do a breakaway, because also when that was the only guy everybody were fear of, and when he was just moving from 1 inch, like everybody was directly on the wheel. So that's also the hard stuff in duathlon, as it's so short. For sure, when it's a super long bike race, can have a lot of possibility to go to breakaway. When here on 20k, yeah, you don't have that much possibility. And when it's super dense field, there is always some guys be able to follow them, and then the bunch follows. So but yeah, and this guy came back this year, I think, to Total Energy, and he really performed super well. I think I
Hmm.
don't remember which race he won, but in a breakaway, it's really this guy of super high FTP, also super aero. On the bike, he's a real TT specialist. But also he was still also super strong on short effort. But because he came from cycling, that was really a super phenomenon on the bike.
Cool. Makes sense. What about nutritional strategies between running and cycling? I think, a lot there are people on the bike differ. It's, hey, maybe I eat 2 hours before, maybe I eat 3 hours before, but running across the board, from what I've gathered in my small experience of runners, they like solid foods, no go before a run. How does that work with you? Is that true? Or like, if you're running early, do you have to really think more about the nutrition as opposed to going like a day where you might just ride?
For that, I'm quite lucky. I can eat like whatever, just like for me, 30 minutes or even 1 hour before running, there's no
Really?
problem. Yeah, for
Wow.
that, I know I'm quite lucky because I know a lot of runner have to struggle with that. So yeah, for that, I have no problem. But when it comes to racing now, I try to be a bit more to plan it more in advance because also before I can go in duathlon races and eat 1 hour 30, 1 hour before the race without any problem, you know. But now we implementing a bit more the bike up, you know, from Morton
Mm,
or stuff like that before the race. Now I tend to try to eat around 3 hours, 3 hours 30 before the race, and again 2 hours before I take the bicarb. And because if I would have eaten 2 hours before and I have also to eat my bicarb, it would have been way too much. So that's also something I try to implement and to check that before races. But for training, I really have no. For that, I really think I'm lucky, but don't watch too much when I'm eating before a training, and just pay attention to after, you know, after our session, taking protein, the recovery shake, stuff like that. But that's also something I put way more attention now with my coach of all these details. As we were talking about process, but that's really planning in advance the day before, you know, what are my session or when I'm eating my meals, recovery shakes, stuff like that, because that's the hardest stuff here is when you have to train two, sometimes three times, sometimes four times when you have the gym session in one day. If you don't plan
mm,
it in advance, like you can really be in a rush, and you yeah, it's really stressful. But if you plan it a bit more in advance, it's super fluid and you can train more and recover faster, and it's a good circles.
yeah, I like that. Man, this has been really insightful, I think, for cyclists who want to start running, or obviously for duathletes, and maybe even a few tips for triathletes out there. Did any final words for the people, anything we might have missed on that would be beneficial for people to hear?
Actually, no, not especially. Just remember to have fun because I really sometimes see a lot of people stressing a lot for at the end it stays sports. Even if now it's my job, I really it stay really a pleasure, you know, to do that. And as I'm a big also fan of basketball, when you see all the guy like LeBron James, that's really the love of the sport and really have pleasure doing it. And yeah, for sure, if you miss one race or stuff like that, they will have another one, and yeah, have pleasure, have fun doing it, do it with other people, and share also your passion for the sport. For me, it's great because at the end, I really think that if everybody would ride or run, the world would be better. Sport world would be great.
I love that, Arnaud. We'll post your Instagram. Do you blog or tweet or TikTok or any other social media places that people can follow you, or maybe Strava?
Yeah. I put some stuff on Strava. I don't know if I always put everything. Maybe I will try to. Maybe I don't know. Sometimes why I'm hiding stuff. I guess it's so to hide some power numbers or stuff like that. But yeah. I have a Strava also on my Instagram. We try also to do some YouTube content, but that's French with another friend of me. So we are naming the 10K guys for the
Okay.
10K run and everything. So yeah, we, as we said, trying to share a bit because duathlon also is not a big sport, but when you can a bit share a bit more to other what is duathlon about. Because at the end, I know a lot of triathletes also call themselves triathletes, but are not real triathletes. They're just duathletes who are swimming, you know.
Yeah.
So, but for sure, it's also yeah, that's a nice up. And also, you know, for duathlon, because it always have been the problem with duathlon is that it's not an Olympic sport, you know. So also for all this search of maybe trying to be an Olympic sport would be great, I think, for the sport and for all the community of multi-sport athletes.
It's fantastic. Man, thank you so much for taking the time to do
Thank
this.
you.
Everybody, make sure you give him a follow on Instagram and if you get into running, let us know how it goes. I'm dabbling in that, and we'll see what happens. And good luck with your training and racing. We'll talk to y'all soon.